styles dictate a shorter length, you can choose to go out and buy a new one or shorten the one that you already have. I'll show you how. Here's a pretty woolen coat with a velvet collar, lined of course, and covered velvet buttons. Really worth making the length that the client desires. At the fitting, the client and I decided that the coat needed to be hemmed up 10 inches. Have someone help you determine what the proper length should be for your coat. The nature of coats inside out is that they have a substantial facing behind the buttons and the buttonholes. Oftentimes the lining is attached at the hem. This one is not. Sometimes coats have a vent in the back. This one does not. How you would handle sewing a vent would be the same way that you would handle the front plackets and facing. Begin marking off the 10 inches. Connect your lines. Determine how wide your hem is going to be. 2 inches on this hem. Let's do the same thing. Do this all along the bottom edge of the coat. Mark off 10 inches from the bottom of the lining, not from the bottom of the coat. We need to figure out now how much of a hem to add to this lining. Looking at the existing lining, it looks like there's a good 1.5 inches of lining. Some of that 1.5 inches is tucked under, about 1/4 inch of it. This particular lining hem is blind hemmed. I'm going to show you how to straight stitch this lining hem rather than blind hemming, since most home sewers don't actually have a blind hemmer. You can, of course, opt to hand sew your hem so that it looks like blind hemming. As well, the coat has been some form of blind hemmed too, but we're going to actually hand stitch our new hem. In the end, I've decided to add 2 inches to the lining hem as well. At this point, in order to be able to cut along our new cutting lines on the lining and the coat, we need to separate the lining from the coat begin with the ripper and get it all separated, clear from the bottom to about as far past the last mark. See how I ripped back about as far back as the width of these 2 chalk lines. As far as the coat hem goes, it looks like, once I open this area here, that the coat was hemmed the same way through the placket as the coat and simply folded back and tacked. Both plackets are free now, and we're ready to cut along the new cutting lines of the woolen coat and the lining. Make sure to cut along the cutting line and not the new fold line. Making sure that the lining is well out of the way and underneath, go ahead and cut along your new cutting line of the coat. That does mean that for the first few inches you are cutting through the facing and the coat so it's thicker there. And then eventually you get free and continue on. While I'm waiting for the steam iron to heat up, anything that's in my way of folding this under adequately so that I can press it under, such as tacking stitches alongside the placket, just cut them loose. Cut them loose. We won't even be replacing those unless you want to. Press well. When it comes to the facing and the general placket area at the edges, press flat this seam so that it's soft and supple. Then fold up your 2 inches or however wide your hem is. And press down well. We don't want this area to be too bulky if we can help it, and it helps to press it very flat. Now it's time to press back the lining 2 inches, and having flipped this coat around yet again, find your line, press it well. Go back now, meet your pinked or raw edge up to the press line, fold it, and press what ought to measure about 1 1/8 inches. Now we're all set up to simply stitch along this line. I'll pin it and we'll sew it then. At the edges of the lining, don't let the seam line get folded in. Keep it out. Because it's going to be the seam line again with the coat. You'll see. Also, now is a good time to check the integrity of the seams on the coat part where you cut, because naturally when you cut stitches and it starts to come apart. So when you have all this down on the machine to sew the lining, you may as well reinforce the seams. Just sew a little ways up and then they'll be tight. It's all been pretty straightforward up to this point. We've hemmed the lining. We're about to hem the coat. But first we need to attach the lining to the placket facing. We'll do that is we'll manipulate the lining around to be right sides facing to the coat. Place a pin along the lining stitching line. You're ripped up to about here. Now, your coat has been pressed this way, but bend it back and with your fingers press it back, borrow that pin and repin. What you've done is, and using my favorite term, is sandwich the lining into the square corner that you're going to make here of the facing. It will all become clear in a moment, but let's do it again anyway. Manipulate the lining around to right sides facing. Pin. Fold back the opposite way that you've pressed the hem on that fold line. Borrow that pin, pin through all thicknesses of the coat and the lining, and make sure that you've adequately sandwiched the lining into the coat hem. Sew this short distance from about here to here. Pretty much following the old stitching line. Here's what we accomplished with all that manipulating of the lining and the coat hem. Once you turn it right side out, you create a nice 90-degree angle corner. Fold back the hem properly because we're going to be hand stitching it soon. And allow the lining to lay across properly. Having folded back the facing of the placket area, you see now how it's starting to shape up into a very good looking rehem job. Pin where you're going to tack. Pin alongside your hem. There are many and varied stitches you can use. Find your preference. Right now I'm just using a simple running stitch. It's up to you whether you want your stitches to show, or if you want to fold back and hide your stitches. Do this all alongside the edge of the new hem, and in the end we'll come back and tack the corner lastly. Tack the corner. This is how I'm going to do it. Going from side to side. Oh, 4 or 5 times. Then knot it. Snip it. You're tacked. Okay, that's really good. Nice job.